The small town of Bramble Creek, West Virginia, was quiet and forgotten. Most people drove through without stopping. The town was surrounded by thick woods and old farms. Some houses sat empty, falling apart after years of rain and wind. But something darker than time had settled in Bramble Creek, and it all started with the old shed behind the Miller farm. 17-year-old Ethan had just moved to town with his mom after his parents' divorce. They bought a cheap farmhouse on the edge of the woods. The house creaked and smelled like mold. But what caught Ethan's eye on the first day was the shed. It was far back on the property, hidden by trees, had no windows, and the wood was blackened and rotten. A heavy chain wrapped around the door. His mom told him to stay away from it. The last owner said it was full of old junk, she said. Dangerous tools, maybe. We'll have someone clear it out later. But Ethan was curious. That night, Ethan couldn't sleep. The wind blew hard outside. He could hear branches scraping the walls, and he heard something worse, the sound of metal dragging. Slowly a clink, then a pause. Then again, he looked out the window. The shed sat still, but he thought he saw something move in the dark, shape. Then it was gone. The next day, Ethan made friends with a girl from school named Harper. She lived nearby and knew all the local stories. You moved into the Miller place? She asked. You know about the shed, right? Ethan shook his head. Just that it has old tools. Harper leaned in closer. People say it's cursed, but a man used to live there, Elijah Crowe. He collected weapons, not just guns, but weird stuff. Blades, axes, chains. Some say he made his own. Said they could feed on pain. He started hearing voices. Said the weapons spoke to him. Ethan laughed. That's crazy. Harper didn't smile. He killed his whole family with them. Then he locked himself in the shed. They found the door chained from the inside, but he was gone. Just blood and tools left behind. That night, Ethan couldn't stop thinking about the story. It was just a legend, right? Still, when his mom went to sleep, he grabbed a flashlight and walked out to the shed. The wind had stopped. Everything was quiet. He reached the door. The chain was old, rusted but still locked tight. He leaned close. Something dripped onto his hand. He looked up. A red smear ran down the wood. Not fresh, not dry. Something in between. The next day, Ethan told Harper what he saw. She didn't laugh. Instead, she brought a bolt cutter she'd taken from her dad's garage. We're opening it, she said. Tonight, they waited until late, then snuck out with flashlights. The chain broke with a loud snap. The shed door creaked open. Thick smell hit them, rotting wood, rust, and something worse. Inside, the air was cold. The walls were lined with weapons, dozens of them. Some looked ancient. Others looked like they were made in a nightmare. Curved blades, twisted axes, heavy iron hammers, all stained, all humming softly like a breath. Harper stepped in. Do you feel that? Ethan nodded. His skin prickled. The air felt heavy, like it was pressing on his chest. Then something moved. A blade on the wall fell off and hit the ground. Harper jumped. Another one began to rattle. Then another. The tools began to shake, clatter, then lift into the air. Run, Harper screamed. They bolted out, slamming the door behind them. The weapons hit the inside of the door like angry fists. Ethan threw the chain around the handles again and backed away. Did you see that? He gasped. They moved on their own? Harper nodded, pale. I think they're alive. Over the next few days, things got worse. Ethan began having dreams of the shed, weapons hanging like meat in a butcher shop. He saw a tall man with burned skin, sharpening a blade with no eyes. The man whispered to him, "Feed us." His mom grew worried. He wasn't sleeping. He started drawing the weapons. Sketches filled his notebooks, knives with jagged teeth, axes with screaming faces on the blade. Harper called him one night. My dad's hurt, she said, crying. Something attacked him in the garage. A hammer flew off the wall and hit him. There was no one there. Ethan knew. The curse was spreading. That weekend, they decided to burn the shed. They filled gas cans, waited until dark, and walked through the woods together. But when they reached the shed, the door was already open. Inside, the weapons were gone. Then the screams started. The woods came the sound of metal slicing flesh. sounds of someone being torn apart. They ran toward the sound and found a hiker lying on the ground. His arms were missing. Something had chopped them clean off. A blade floated in the air above him, dripping blood, turned toward them. They ran. The woods were alive with weapons, axes, and trees, saws in the grass, knives flying through the dark. They dodged and ducked, tripping over roots and rocks. Harper screamed as a blade slashed her leg. Ethan grabbed her and pulled her to safety. "We have to stop them," he said, panting. "We have to destroy them." "How?" she cried. "They're not just tools, they're possessed." Then Ethan remembered the legend. Elijah Crowe chained himself inside, but he was never found. "He didn't die," Ethan said. "He became part of them. The weapons were his. The spirit fed them. They needed blood, pain, fear." "We kill the master," Ethan said. "We stop it." They returned to the shed. This time they went in with fire. They lit torches, ready to burn everything. Inside, the weapons waited. Now they hovered in the air, spinning slowly, and in the back corner something moved. A figure stepped out, all skin like ash, eyes burned shut. It held a blade shaped like a crescent moon. The figure smiled. "You brought me more," it said, its voice like metal on bone. Ethan raised his torch. "You're Elijah," the man nodded. "And you will be my next," he charged. Ethan dodged, swinging the torch. The fire caught the wall. Flames spread. Harper grabbed an axe and swung it at the floating weapons, knocking them down, but they kept coming. Ethan saw a chain hanging from the ceiling. He wrapped it around Elijah's neck and pulled with all his strength. The ghost screamed. The weapons fell to the floor, twitching. Harper threw the last gas can onto the fire. The shed exploded in a blast of heat and wood and screams. It barely made it out alive. Ow. The next morning, firefighters found nothing but ashes. No weapons, no body. Just a blackened chain in the rubble. Ethan and Harper never spoke of it again. They left Bramble Creek the next summer. But sometimes, in the quiet woods of West Virginia, people hear things, metal scraping, chains dragging. And those who wander too close to where the Miller farm once stood sometimes go missing. All that's found are the wounds' perfect slices, like they were made by something old and angry.